Well, welcome to another episode of Triumph Dolomite Sprint Rally Car Restoration. Well, today I'm going to start working on the engine, and now I've built about 4 engines in my time, all Dolomite Sprint engines. The TR7's engine is still running some 15 years later. The other engines went into Dolomites that unfortunately got sold as part of my downsizing for retirement. So none of them blew up or played up or gave trouble, so I'm hopeful things will go well with this one. But let's wait and see. Now, I'm by no means a mechanic, so I wouldn't take any of what I'm doing with being the right way to do it. All I can do is just do what I have been shown over the years or observed, and none of that may ultimately be correct. Now, this little Welsh plug just here is into the oil gallery where the jack shaft runs. In fact, all these Welsh plugs are into the oil gallery, which is odd. Well, I call it a gallery, I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but anyway, this sucker here popped out one time. Now, if you go to breakdown stories on my website, there's a website about the blown Welsh plug, I think it's called. And so I'm driving around Eastern Creek, you know, in the old days when I drove fast, and you can even actually hear me on the camera. There's an in-car camera, and I sort of say, oh, what was that? It's because that popped out and it made a pop noise. Now, came back into the pits, had a bit of a look under the engine bay. Engine's running fine, couldn't see anything wrong, so just thought it was a bit of a backfire through the carby, and we didn't give it any real thought. Then on the way home, up the freeway, and there's a big hill, and well, the oil light came on and the engine stopped virtually straight away after that, and that was it. That was one buggered engine. And when we opened the bonnet, there was oil everywhere. So, yeah, you learn from your mistakes, I suppose. Now, I don't know whether you're supposed to or not supposed to, or whether it matters at all to put gasket goo on here. Now again, you ever wondered why they're called Welsh plugs? I haven't. And that's the cost of it all. As this car runs an electric fuel pump, the hole here for the manual fuel pump needs to be covered up. So there's a plate that does that. I don't know what you actually call this thing. It's I don't know what it's called. Well, the oil cooler lines come off, go to the oil cooler. I don't know On a standard car, it's just sort of like a cover plate. The oil sender thing that goes to your pressure light, that is on here as well. Yeah, these things like to leak a little bit. It really is the oil pump. I'm putting a new oil pump on it. Now, I'm not putting any silicone around here. I don't know, like I said, I don't like silicone. I think the oil ring things will do the job. So next job is to paint it. Well, it's time to put a coat of paint on this thing. Oh, don't that look pretty? An awful lot of cleaning and cleaning, and well, first thing I got to do is get the protective coating that they put on these off. I like to put a little bit of oil here for no real reason that I'm aware of. A little tag doohickey thing here, technical term there, and there's a corresponding bit. I just put that in its location and then push the other end in. There's some thrust washers just here, stop the crank moving back and forth, and there's a certain amount of thou clearance that it's supposed to have. I've got a couple of different sizes, so hopefully I've got the right ones to do that. Now, years ago, before I built the TR7's engine, I bought a whole Dolly Sprint running car. It was unregistered, but running car. I bought it for the engine. I was going to put it in the TR7 because the 7 still had a TR7 engine. And the clutch felt funny. But otherwise, you know, I'd been sitting around for a while, so I didn't think anything of it. And got the bugger home and pulled the motor out, took the sump off in order to put the TR7 sump on, and found one of these half-moon thrust washers in the sump. That's why the clutch felt funny, because the crankshaft was moving back and forth. And this whole area here on the block was ground away, and the whole of the crank was all ground away. Basically the block and the crank were scrapped. So so much for that car. It actually went on to become quite a favourite car of mine, and had to go during the retirement restructure, which is a sad thing, but anyway, that's life. Don't talk to me about life. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's one long process of getting tired. Life is a tale told by a fool, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Again, I'm going to sort of have to say that I'm not a mechanic here, so I use this stuff, which is, it's got anti-seize written on it. It's also called assembly grease. And I put this all over the place here. Some people use oil, of course. But oh well, this was how I was told to do it. So and you tend to do things the way your old man told you to do it. So whether it's the right way or wrong way is anyone's guess. But all the other engines I built were still running last time I looked, so who knows. There's plenty of that on there now. This is one heavy sucker, and of course doesn't help. The engine stand is in the way a bit. There you go. Alrighty, what I've got here is these half moony sort of thrust washers. Now these are standard to try first, and we'll just see how that goes. This part, that part faces outwards, I think, is to determine. That might be alright, so we'll leave them for now. Alrighty then, let's start putting these on. Again, it's a bit of a learning experience, in as much as it's not like I build these engines all the time. It would have to be 10 years since I've done one of these. So, trying to remember exactly how they go is a challenge. Now, I'm sure these only fit one way. Assembling an engine, I don't think is all that sort of difficult. It's just you've got to be thorough and concentrate on what you're doing and make sure everything's right. You bugger one thing up and, oh well, it's all over red rubber. Of course, you know, you put all this together and put the whole thing in the car and all that work, and you've done something wrong. Oh well, yeah, that's the end of it. So you need to make sure you do it right. Of course, even though this is a rally car, motorsport car, it's just a basic standard engine. It's been bought out, but that's necessity to because of the wear. There's no super duper engineering involved. There's no super duper pistons and camshafts and go fast stuff. The sort of strengthening thing that they often put on here, all that sort of thing, that is not happening. I'm sure it's the case. They only fit one way, and they're numbered, so you can determine, once you've got one, you can determine the others. This sucker, there's this one that's not numbered, is a matter of, you know, which way around does it go? So I can't remember. I thought it only went one way, but there was a little angle on the doohickey thingamajiggity, whatchamacallit, that meant it would only fit one way. But it's so do have a workshop manual. Real men don't look at workshop manuals, but I will. Alright, finger crossing time. There you go. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? Alright, let's worry about this end float. Like everything I do to the dolly, and of course my bad mechanicking, doesn't quite go according to plan. It's taken me a considerable amount of time to work out the end float. Ended up with two oversized thrust washers. That's all well and good, and I was just about finished, and I put my hand under here a little bit just to pull on something. I forget what I was doing on, and a great blob of iron filings from the machining all fell out and scattered all over the place, and it fell into this grease stuff, and I tried to clean it. I got a magnet and what have you, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of time and effort and money, and I'm not doing all this to find it buggered. So it's all coming out, and I'm going to have to clean it all. I assumed, and I did blow air all over this engine block and wipe it down, but I have to admit I just made this assumption that it was all clean from the fancy machine they have at the machine shop. But up in under here, there's swag of iron filings. It more's under there than what fell out when I put my hand under there, so that's got to be cleaned out somehow without getting, so I'm pulling the crank back out. Of course, now I know what the thrust washers are. Now I know all these caps and which orientation they are, and all that. It should be a lot quicker to put the sucker back together again. So not much to show for the best part of a day of stuffing around. Oh, don't you just love it? I suppose it keeps me amused. Like I said, I'm lucky I'm not charging myself an hourly rate, or this engine would be costing a lot of money. You gotta laugh, you know, you just gotta. So I'll take this crank back out, and tomorrow I'll have to clean it all thoroughly and clean this block, make sure there's no other iron filings hidden anywhere, and have another go, you mug. Well, it's a new day and it's a new start. After yesterday's failure of the iron filings that were up under here, and when I went to move the engine, iron filings all over the place. So everything had to come out, clean it all, and pretty well back to where I started yesterday. So I don't know, let's get on with it. Of course, the advantage of all this carry-on is that the end float is sort of a known thing now, and the thrust washers, you know, I've got the right ones sorted out, so there's not all that mucking around that I did yesterday with that, trying to work out a whole lot of how it all goes together problems. This all is all known. Because I've got a bucket list of events that I had hoped to do in the dolly. I've never driven at Phillip Island in Victoria, or Sandown in Victoria. or Winton in Victoria, Lakeside in Queensland. But I think it's a bit pie in the sky. Well, that just about brings us to the end of this episode of the Triumph Dolomite Sprint Rally Car Restoration. Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel, for more mechanical mayhem on the poor old dolly. When you'll probably see me continue to work on this engine, and it looks like it's going to take a couple episodes to get done. I'm Crack McMillard. Bye for now.